Welcome to the PWTorch Livecast. I am Wade Keller, editor and publisher of the Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter since 1987, PWTorch.com, the website, since 1999, the PWTorch app since 2009, I think, and now host of the PWTorch Livecast for the last several years. I host on Tuesdays with Jason Powell of ProWrestling.net, and Fridays is Interview Friday. And today, Friday, May 3rd, 2013, I am very excited to announce a return guest from about 6 weeks ago, and that is Scott Hall. Scott, welcome back to the show.
Hey, yo, Wade. Say hello to the bionic bad guy.
So let's talk about that. You had surgery. How did it feel?
I'll tell you, man. In modern medicine, who would have thunk it? You know, I should have done this years ago.
Yeah.
I feel great. The pain of the surgery was so much less than the pain of the arthritis and the bone spurs, you know, limping around. I'm doing great ahead of schedule. In fact, I didn't even take the pain pills that they gave me. The pain isn't that bad, bro. I mean, it's I can actually walked up and down stairs today for the first time, you know, like, you know, 1, 2, 1, 2 instead of going 1, 1, 1. And
oh yeah.
Like I used the walker for the first couple of days, and I switched to the cane for about 10 days, and been walking around the past few days, just, you know, freestyling, and feels great, man. I'm doing like surf walking as part of my rehab.
Oh, cool.
I walk around the mall like my ring entrance just to draw attention to myself.
And people think you're just trying. You can't get out of your past. That you're still.
Well, people think I'm drinking again, so you know I'm getting some sympathy.
Yeah. So you're still sober and counting the days?
I don't really dwell on counting the days, but yeah, it's over 100 something. I'm closing in on 4 months, and it's
great.
Just my life has been improving just exponentially. I don't know how to describe it, but I just feel great, man. And you know, I don't want to belabor the point. We beat this to death last time, but I feel great, bro.
That's fantastic. Still living in DDP's house, and
yeah, still here. In fact, Dally invited my son Cody, who is breaking in, and he's had about 7 matches in the Central Florida scene. And Dally has invited Cody to move up here and stay in the guest room, and
oh, wow.
Cody and Dally talked on the phone. I guess I checked in with Cody the other day, and he's agreed to come. And I'm going to fly down to Orlando like May 25th and check on my place. My daughter's graduating May 28th from high school. My daughter Cassidy will be graduating from high school, so I'm going to go there and then take her around, and then probably drive back up with Cody in his truck. Although I might swing by Miami and visit a dear friend of mine in South Beach, if she'll have me. I don't know. It's still up in the air. I think, you know, about 7 years ago, bro, I mentioned her name on your show, and I'd seen her forever, and I heard from her after that. So I'm hoping your show works magic for me again. We'll see. Very
cool. Well, if you want to talk to Scott Hall, we have live phone lines right now. If you're listening to us live, that means it is 5:34 Eastern, 2:34 Pacific time on Friday. We are here every Friday at 5:30 Eastern at PWTorchLivecast.com. That is PWTorchLivecast.com. Don't forget, if you like our show, you're going to love our website. Visit every day for new features. We just started Ask PWTorch, a new feature that I am posting so far 2 days in a row. We'll see how long, if I'm able to do it every day or most days, with the staff joining in also answering your questions. Check that out exclusively on PWTorch.com. That is not available on our app. That is a PWTorch.com website exclusive, but we do invite you to download our app filled with dozens of new articles. Almost every day, more than a dozen articles. Just search PWTorch in the App Store or on your smartphone and download it. It's free, and it is packed with a ton of exclusive news and commentary. Next Friday, Mickey James from TNA, scheduled to be our guest for the first 40 minutes of the program, and we are working on securing a second guest for the second half of the show. So cool stuff, and later this month we have another first-time guest that I'm excited to have on, but don't want to jump the gun on announcing it quite yet. We'll announce it on our Twitter page at PWTorch Livecast. All right, lots of plugs in there. Phone lines, if you want to talk to Scott Hall, 646-721-9828. That's 646-721-9828. Let's dive right into the phone line, Scott, and I've certainly got more things I want to talk to you about. I do want to note to listeners that Scott has watched some wrestling here and there over the past 6 weeks since he was on our show, And, Scott, did you see WrestleMania? I think you commented during it.
Yeah, in fact, I did see it. It was the first pay-per-view I've ever been where it was, the first pay-per-view. I was at the crib and they purchased it. It's the first time I've ever been at a pay-per-view that I wasn't participating in, that I paid attention at. So it was fun. It was a good time.
Yeah.
People came over and we ate and laughed, and it was a good time.
Awesome. Well, we'll for sure talk about that during the show, and also talk about your thoughts. You've watched both some WWE and some TNA in the past month, or just WWE?
I saw a little TNA.
I thought you were on Twitter on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if callers, if I'm just kind of letting callers know what the parameters are, if you are interested in some specific questions, it might be hit or miss whether Scott feels he has seen enough to comment on it, but we certainly invite you to do it. All right, let's begin our phone calls here with area code 716. And then after that, we'll go to 423 and 920. So hold tight, everyone. 716, you're on with Scott Hall. Please state your name and where you're from. Hang on here. The switchboard's acting slow. I see a spinning wheel, but it will get there. I think, it's probably my internet. I'm uploading an audio file right now, and I probably shouldn't be, but it'll be done soon. Come on, internet.
Dang it, Wade. Dang it.
I know. It's still spinning.
I only work with professionals. I'll be in my trailer. Have your people call my people.
All right, I just canceled my upload because obviously CenturyLink doesn't have enough bandwidth for me to do two things at once here. 716, you are now live. Please state your name and where you're from. 716, you're really on the air. Go ahead.
Good, Wade. Good.
All right, 716, they gave up on us. All right, let's go. I'm glad you can laugh at my expense this early, Scott. Let's try 423 next. Let's have better luck with 423. 423, please state your name and where you're
begging
from.
you, 423, be there.
Hey, Scott and Wade, this is Ian from Tennessee.
Hey, Ian, thanks for calling. Thanks for being there.
Hey, what's up, bud?
Hey, first I want to say that I took off work early so I could make sure to get on the phone line and talk to Scott.
I appreciate that. I hope you didn't punch out, though. Have somebody else punch you out, man.
Hey, that was a theme on Mad Men last week, Scott. I don't know if you've seen Mad Men, but somebody punched somebody out on Mad Men last week early, and they got fired. So I'm just saying.
Oh, no.
Go ahead.
I got paid for it.
All right, good. Go ahead, Ian. I'll stop trying to be funny or clever. It doesn't work.
No, you're killing me, Wade. I'm dying over here.
I'll be the straight man, I promise. Go ahead, Ian.
First, I want to say, as a longtime fan, Scott, I'm really proud of the progress that you've made and the fact that you're still here. And as a fan, seeing you in this light means more than seeing you in any belts, go in the Hall of Fame. Just knowing that, you're still here for your friends and your family is just awesome. And thank you for that.
Well, that's very kind of you. Thanks a lot, man.
Anything else?
I had a wrestling question. I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, but with a lot of the part-time people that have come in, like The Rock and Undertaker, Triple H, and Brock Lesnar, do you think that when they come in on such a limited schedule that they should interact or, quote, put over any up-and-coming talent instead of exclusively working with some of the older guys?
I don't know, man. I think those guys, in my opinion, they've earned the right to pretty much do what they want. So, when you got that kind of leverage, you can make your own deal. Whether they choose to, put somebody over, that's up to them. I personally think it's the thing to do for me. I like putting young guys over when I think they have a chance to help the company prosper. If I see somebody in the locker room that I think has potential, I usually like to get in their ear and tell them what I know, or at least what I think, and then if I get the opportunity to put them over, I do, because that's just the way I roll. Some of these other guys, maybe that's not their style. I can't speak for them, I can only speak to them.
Hey,
but
Ian,
that's a good question.
It was Ian. Before you jump back in, Ian, because I will go back to you for follow-up if you wanted. Scott, when you first got to the AWA or WCW, maybe even more specifically, because there were more big stars around at that point, were there any stars above you, and really talk about WWF as Razor Ramon when you first got there, any of those time periods, were there examples of top guys ahead of you in the depth chart who either were very gracious in putting you over or were stingy to a point that you took offense to it, at least at that point in your career?
Well, starting in the AWA, I was really blessed because, God rest his soul, Kurt Hennig was there and bent over backwards to make me look great and to feature me, and they put us in a tag for that reason because they thought I had something to offer box office-wise, and Kurt did all the work. Kurt did everything. He sold. He tagged me. I'd make a comeback. I'd beat the guys. And there was a lot of guys who knew way more than me at the time about how to perform, but who put me over because they thought it was the right thing to do, and we would sell more tickets. And so I was really lucky there because those guys were all businessmen. They could have buried me in a ring, and I was so green I wouldn't even have known it or known what to do about it. In the WWE, the same thing. I was lucky to be surrounded by business people. When I first got there and doing that Razor gimmick, my first angle was against, Macho Man, Randy Savage, and God rest his soul. So many great guys that are gone, but, Mach was putting me over, and back in an era when Mach didn't do jobs. Mach didn't lose. Mach won. And, he put me over. And he put me over around the loop, And initially we were doing, they started the angle at Wembley Stadium at SummerSlam when Mach was wrestling Flair with Perfect on the outside. And, Mach was doing that famous double axe handle move he does from the top to the floor. And he was coming off on Flair, and Perfect hit him with the folding metal chair in the leg. So when they returned to the States is when Razor debuted, interfered in a match with Mach versus Flair. I got to Mach's leg, rolled him in, figure four, changed the, strap changed his hands, Flair's the champ. And after that, I went around the loop with Mach in house shows, and I was beating Mach with a single leg Boston Crab, and he was tapping out, and he's a babyface. Babyfaces don't submit. And actually, I remember asking Mach because all of a sudden the finish changed to where I'd be on the floor and he would do the double axe handle from the top to the floor on me, sell his leg and stay on the floor for the 10 count while I rolled in. And I asked him, I said, Mach, did you call the office and get the finish changed? He went, yes, I did. Yes, I did. So it was like, okay, I appreciate you being honest. But, yeah, the same thing. I ran into guys like Mach and, who major star, a guy that I was so marked out from the first time I did an interview face-to-face with him, I could hardly talk. And here he is putting me over. So I've never really, I guess maybe that's why my attitude towards doing job for guys is the way it is, because so many guys did jobs for me and allowed me to have, a great career.
Very cool. Ian, any follow-up?
Yeah, I think that's an awesome way of looking at it. And when I say, I guess put somebody over, I don't even necessarily mean lose a match. I look at what The Undertaker's doing with the Shield, and, perception is a big deal in wrestling, and if you get some up-and-coming guys with somebody that's such a legend like The Undertaker, whether they win a match or not, as a fan, it looks like they're a huge deal. And I think that in a lot of ways they've got a leg up on people like a Randy Orton or a Sheamus that, may not ever get that kind of a rub in 2013.
Ian, appreciate it as always. Thanks for your comments. Yep. Thanks for taking off work early to be part of the show. Cool. Scott, let's move to our next call. The phone lines are starting to fill up more and more. Got about 15 people on hold, so we'll try to get to everybody that we can. You can also email us if you can't call us but you're listening or you're shy. The email address is PWTorchLivecast@gmail.com. 920, you're up next, and then 865 on deck. 920, please state your name and where you're from.
Hey, guys, this is David from Wisconsin.
Hey, David, thanks for calling. What have you got for Scott Hall?
Hey, Dave.
Hey, Scott, good to hear from you again. I called in last time you were on. I just have two questions for you. One being, I see how much fun you're having on Twitter, and I think that's really cool. Is that helping put in perspective how many fans that are out there that still really look at you as a top star, and how many fans there were of the NWO? Because I see NWO pictures every day now on my Twitter, which I think is cool. And then the other thing I just wanted to ask is on Twitter, I've seen you praise Jeff Hardy a couple times, and you had his first match in the WWE was against you. So can you just kind of talk about how much he's grown from when he was 16? And I'm asking because I just saw you gave him big props a couple times.
Well, I remember handpicking Jeff to work with when I was there. You know, by this time I think the Razor gimmick, I was a babyface, and I looked around the locker room. You know, it's TV, and I'm looking for somebody to work with, and I wanted him because back then he was rocking this cool hairdo. You know, and he's just a cool cat. You know, you can't teach cool. He's cool, and I remember I wanted to work with him. And Pat Patterson, you know, was the booker and the boss, and he went, no, you cannot. You are a babyface. You cannot wrestle him. And I was like, Pat, please. And so, you know, he acquiesced, and I got to wrestle Jeff. And, man, he flew for me, and he sold for me like crazy. Somebody sent me the match the other night and refreshed my memory, and I watched Jeff selling my finish like crazy. And I remember, and I didn't remember this, but when I crossed paths with Jeff in TNA years later, he said, and I was working with him, I think I'm wearing like the Elvis suit, and I work with Jeff, and, you know, I'm going to do a job for him. And afterwards we were sitting like in catering and laughing, and he went, man, I don't know if you remember, but, you know, I put you over one time, and you told me that, you know, years later, you know, you returned a favor. And it just was so cool, and to see him have such great success, you know, I'm just really proud of him, man. He's a super guy. His brother Matt's a great guy. They love wrestling, and I love guys who love wrestling.
Matt and Jeff, both two guys, too, who follow, not following your footsteps, but have followed similar paths of having some issues with addiction and chemical dependency and working their way through it. I mean, it's been kind of I don't know what the correct term is, a renaissance year, a comeback year, but the last 12, 18 months or so, we started to hear more good stories. And I think the Hardys are two of them, you and Jake Roberts. It's been more.
You know, Justin Credible, Road Dogg, you know, Billy Gunn. The list goes on and on. All the cool guys are getting clean now.
That's a cool thing to do. Justin Credible, by the way, since you brought him up, was the guest of Pat McNeil 2 days ago on this livecast. So if you didn't catch that show, if you're listening to us, you can find it in the archives at PWTorchLivecast.com or on our RSS feed. Our RSS feed is at PWTorchLivecast.com. David, anything else for us?
No. Thanks for the time, guys. And Scott, take care. Look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, David. 865 is up now, and then 256 and 202 are on deck. You can get in line on the phone banks, 646-721-9828. I'm Wade Keller, joined today, May 3rd, 2013, by Scott Hall, the bad guy, Razor Ramon. 865, please state your name and where you're from.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Steven from Tennessee.
Hey, Steven, good to hear from you. What have you got for Scott?
Hey, Mr. Hall, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for asking.
Hey, it's really quick. I just got married last week, and my new wife and I, on our way back from our honeymoon, actually listened to the last interview you guys did. And my wife is a fan from the WCW days, and we just wanted to first off to say how proud and awesome and thankful that you are doing well, man, not only as fans, but also as fellow brothers and sisters in Christ, man. It's just really awesome to see how well you're doing.
Well, thank you very much, man. It's really kind of you to say that.
No problem, man.
My best to your new bride. My best to your new
sir.
bride, bro.
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate that. A quick question that I have is just, you know, obviously you and Jake are hanging out there with DDP in his house and, you know, helping you guys get sobered up and everything. And Jake has mentioned kind of in the way that he would like, once he feels like he's ready to go back into the ring and just kind of end his wrestling career on his terms. And I know that you've mentioned, you know, your main focus is just to get healthy and all that. But I was just kind of curious whether it be in the ring or to go back and within WWE and just kind of in there and a better term. It's kind of how do you see kind of your wrestling legacy kind of ending? Is it just here and just being sober, or is it to go back and do something else?
I'm just going to say what I said before. You know, I'm not making any long-term plans right now. You know, I mean, my long-term plan is to, you know, into May go watch my daughter graduate from high school and hang out with my friends in Florida before I return to Atlanta. You know, I'm happy for Jake. He's a little further down this path than me. You know, and he really wants to prove a point in the wrestling ring. So, you know, I'm really supportive of him and love to see that come true. right now, man, I'm just making it through the day. You know, I ain't had a beer all day. You know, it's getting later. The chances of me drinking are really slim, so I'll be able to cross off one more day. That's kind of where I'm at.
Excellent. Steven, anything else?
No, just other than that, just speaking as a fan, you know, I'd love to see you back in WWE in some capacity, whether it be you have an influence the writing career or something like that. It's just you've got a knowledge and love for the business that's a rare thing, man. We just, again, we're just pulling and praying for you, man. Take it easy, brother.
Thank you.
Very cool. Thanks, Steven. All right, let's go now to 202 and then on deck 716 and 847. 202, please state your name and where you're from.
Hello?
Go ahead, 202. Yep, you're on.
Oh, okay. This is Anthony from Washington, D.C.
Hey, Anthony. Good to hear from you. What do you got for Scott?
Hey, how you doing, Scott?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. Thank you.
That's good, man. I just got a statement and a question. Basically, my statement is, you know what I'm saying, speaking as a wrestling fan who, you know, goes way back with you dealing with the territories and all that around them times, and to watch you, you know, go through what you went through and everything. You know, I just want to say how much I appreciate you, man, as, you know, as being a fan and, and everything that you know, went through and everything. Is a purpose for you to still be breathing, you know what I'm saying? Because you've seen everybody, you know, that went through all the tragedies, you know, losing their life and everything and stuff like that. And for you to still be here, you know what I'm saying, that's a true blessing. I'm just glad and I appreciate you being here. That's my statement. And my question is, you went through so many things back there. If you had any regrets, what would they be, and what would you have done to change them things that you regretted?
For me, bro, I've lived the kind of life most men only dream of. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and did I make a lot of bad decisions? Yeah. Would I do it again? Probably. The only thing I really regret when I reflect on my past, and particularly the pro wrestling part of my life, or really my life in general, you know, I hurt some innocent people's feelings. You know, I hurt some people along the way who didn't deserve their feelings hurt. If I could change anything, and I know that I can't, so I try not to dwell on that, because that was a big problem for me for a long time, is, you know, replaying the tapes, you know, living in the past. I'm just trying to live in the moment now, and I know that sounds really cliche, but it's working for me.
Right.
But going back, man, the only thing I would do is not hurt those innocent people's feelings. The rest of the stuff, you know, hey, you know, it ain't show friends, it's show business. You don't got to like me. It's a business environment. So guys, or the people in the wrestling industry that didn't like me, I don't sweat that. It's the innocent people in the periphery that I hurt, that I feel bad about.
Okay. I appreciate that, man.
All right, cool.
You bet, bro.
Thanks, Anthony.
Okay.
Appreciate it. All right, let's go now to 716.
Anthony's a little serious.
I was thinking the same thing.
Wow.
It was like you just delivered that.
Lighten up, bro.
You delivered some bad news or something to him.
Wow, yeah, sorry. By the way, Anthony, your dog died.
Yeah, and you're going to lose your job. We got that, yeah.
Right, your girl's cheating on you. But other than that, have a nice day.
And your house flooded while you're on vacation.
Yeah. Right, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you enjoy the play?
All right, 716 is up next, and then 847 and 661 on deck. Our phone numbers are 646-721-9828. I'm Wade Keller here at PWTorch Livecast.com with Scott Hall. 716, please state your name and where you're from.
Ari from Buffalo.
Hey, Ari, thanks for calling. What have you got for us?
I got two questions. First one is just a general question. I'm not a wrestler or anything, so I'd actually like a wrestler's opinion about talking in the ring. I feel like top guys like Cena, and I just see it all the time, and the first time I heard somebody complain about it was Bret Hart, and I never really thought about it until he said it, but the talking bugs me a lot. I don't know if it's something that's frowned upon or if they just don't care. So, I don't know, I was just wondering your opinion.
And Ari, you mean communicating spots or
yeah.
like...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You mean you can hear the guys when they're working, like, talking, you know, calling things to each other? Or are you talking about doing an interview?
Or just even seeing it. Just like, you know, he's holding, like, WrestleMania, he's holding Rock in a headlock, and you clearly see them talking, and it just, I feel like it takes away.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you know, I'm sure they don't want to get busted doing that, and sometimes you got to get the camera guys to cooperate.
Yeah.
But in their defense, you know, I know Rock. I've never met Cena, but you got to remember these guys probably wrestled they wrestled a year before, then they wrestled that night. Because Rock wasn't making any counts, so I doubt they had the chance to, smooth it out before they took it to the big show. But, ideally you don't do that. Sometimes when you have long hair, the hair can fall in front of your face and you can call stuff and not get busted. But with Rock having his head shaved and seeing a Rock in that buzz cut, they don't have that advantage. I got to be honest with you. I watched it. I didn't really notice it. To me, the one thing that I noticed was, like, this new breed of guys letting everybody kick out of their finish and using their finishes for high spots.
Yeah.
When I broke in, that was a no-no. Nobody's ever kicked out of the Razor's Edge. I don't use it for a high spot, but, it's each his own. I mean, I just found that it made it, I don't know, that was the thing that jumped out at me. I didn't really notice them talking, but my eyes aren't as good as they used to be, so maybe I missed it.
And Scott, I think part of it is it's just slowly they introduced that to the matches because finishers have been protected for so long. Guys found, hey, if I kick out of his finisher or my opponent kicks out of my finisher, it leads to a dramatic moment. But it's sort of like title changes, as happened in the mid to late 90s through the 2000s. Decades of discipline of not doing that short-term, hey, if I do a title change every month, I'll be able to pop the gate, because you end up watering it down where it doesn't mean that much anymore. And I think it's almost time to dial back on that again, because I think they kind of catch the equity.
I agree with the watered down comment. I think that using your finish for a cheap pop is just that, a cheap pop. It's just against everything I believe in. I think there's alternative false finishes that could be used, but that's just my style. I mean, if somebody wants to kick out their finish, I'd be glad to. But I don't let anybody kick out of mine. That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm gonna hit a guy with my finish and it's not supposed to be the 1-2-3, then I don't cover the guy. Like, I agree with that style. I was studying tapes with Jake the other day when Cody came here for a visit. We all sat on the couch and we were watching. Jake's got almost his whole career on DVD, and we were watching him. And there was points like when Jake hit Taker with the DVD at WrestleMania, I don't know, 4 or 5 or 6, somewhere in Indianapolis in a giant dome, and he wasn't supposed to cover Taker. Well, he didn't see. Jake ain't letting nobody kick out of that DDT either. So what you do is just don't cover the guy. Mm-hmm. He milked it. He went and messed with Paul Bearer on the outside, and he milked it so that by that time Taker had already sat up. So I like that philosophy better, but that's just me.
Yeah. Ari, anything else for us?
Yeah, just a second quick question. Now that you said you watched the product, I love the Shield. I'd love to hear what you think about them and who you think has the best chance of making it as a singles competitor afterwards. Long from not like 18 months like Wade always says. I don't want them to break up.
No, I think that, I get this question a lot because having just joined the internet age the last 7 weeks, so many people are hating on them and comparing and contrasting them to the NWO and figuring I'm going to hate these guys. I got no hate for anybody, really. I'm happy to see guys getting a break. They're getting a good push. To me, the challenge is, okay, guys, now deliver. I think they're all good performers. I personally think the big cat, what's his name, Roman Reigns?
Yep.
I think, and somebody told me he's kin to Rock, which doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
I think I've noticed that the Office features him. He usually, is the dude who delivers the final blow to people, and to me, he's like the money kind of the group. The other dudes are great performers, but I see star on that guy, and I wish them all success. I think they're fun to watch, and I'm happy for them. They're getting a push. It's up to them to deliver, and I think they're gonna. They're the spotlight. Some people wilt in the spotlight, and some people blossom, and I really hope these guys blossom. I think they're entertaining.
Scott, what do you think about the Shield as a unit as opposed to individually, as Ari asked about? How do you utilize 3 guys like that, and do you think that you should keep them together in 6-man tags, or how do you recommend strategically getting them into singles matches like we'll see tonight on SmackDown?
I think I didn't know one guy had a singles match against Taker like not too long ago.
Yeah, and tonight on SmackDown there's another singles match. I don't want to get too much into the spoilers, but they're still portraying them the vast majority of the time as a one, like the Freebirds, but even more so. When you face one, you face all three.
Well, I mean, that's the whole. I love that style. I'm a huge Freebird fan, so hence I created the Wolfpack. Because, and not when it was a million guys wearing red shirts, just when it was me and Kev and Pac.
Yeah.
Because I think that's so cool. And I remember I used to get heat, and I've told the story before, like when Pac would wrestle, or Kev would wrestle, or I would wrestle, we all went to the ring, and we all went together. And I remember at the time, Terry Taylor, who's a really smart guy and a gentleman, used to kind of fuss at WCW, like, well, you guys, you can't go out together. You're involved in the finish. To be like, yeah, I know, Terry. In fact, it's my finish. And he'd go, but the people are going to know you're going to get involved. I said, yeah, but they don't know when. I think it's cool. I think they should hang together. I don't really understand wearing the bulletproof vests and stuff unless they got crazy fans like want to kill them.
Yeah.
Or like I dare them to get a cool logo and spray paint it on the vest. And I don't know how comfortable it is, like wearing those gimmicks. And I wouldn't want to be wearing long camo pants all the time, just because I know what it's like to make town after town after town and have to wash that stuff. I mean, I used to have just like short tights that I could wring out in the sink and hang them up to dry in the hotel. But I mean, I don't know. I would leave those guys together, and I wouldn't rush anything. And let's wait and see what happens. Let's find some good opponents for them, and see what's happening.
Very cool. Ari, any closing thoughts from you?
No, that's it. Thank you, guys.
You bet. Thanks for calling. All right, up next, 661 and then 270 and 516. Our phone numbers are 646-721-9828. That's 646-721-9828. We're also monitoring our email, which is PWTorch Livecast @gmail.com, and we'll answer some select email questions during the show, too. Let's now go to 661. You're on with Scott Hall. Please state your name and where you're from. 661, let's...
Hello, yes?
Yeah, there you are. Go ahead.
Hello, Scott. How's it going? It's Ryan here from Belfast, Northern Ireland.
All the way from Ireland. Give us your name again. We didn't quite catch it, or I didn't.
Ryan, weird.
All right, I'll go ahead, Ireland. I still couldn't hear, but that's all right. What's your question for us?
Well, I just want to say, Scott, firstly, it's an absolute honor to speak with you. I've been a big fan for the last 25 years. And myself, I have battled alcohol and drug problems, so it's good to see that you're doing well.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you to say.
I have two questions, Scott, if you don't mind. A lot of fans talk about the Attitude Era as if, the Attitude Era is the be-all and end-all. I believe that the business should go back to the days of the Golden Era, the late 80s, squash matches and, those guys with charisma, guys who look like stars. What do you think the difference is between the Golden Era and the Attitude Era, apart from the obvious violence?
Well, in my opinion, the reason the squash match era went by the wayside is because television became a bigger part of the industry, and pay-per-views and marketing and merchandising, because the audience now is a lot pickier, and there's way more television channels, way more options for entertainment. People won't sit through a match with some dude that they like against some guy out of the audience. So you rarely see a squash match anymore. I think squash matches done correctly can be really entertaining, but that's my personal choice.
I'm with
that. That answers that. That's the deal. Like, people want to see competitive matches, so that's what the companies have to deliver. And the Golden Era, bro. That's what I grew up watching. But you have to adapt with the times, and I don't know if people would be willing to entertain the idea of that style. There's only one way to find out: start doing it again. I certainly know that there's a locker room full of guys in both companies that could probably put on a really entertaining squash match if given the opportunity. It's just whether the audience will put up with it, and ratings would let you know the next day. So, yeah, I think you got a good idea. There's a challenge to both companies. Start squashing guys.
And I think part of it, Scott, is
maybe you could fly over, bro, and somebody will squash you. We're gonna book you. We're gonna book you against Big Show. Let him choke slam and see how you like that.
And I think part of it too.
Man.
I think part of it too. And tell me, Belfast, is it if this is kind of what you're coming from too, is it's not. People talk about the Attitude Era because for a lot of people, that's when they became a wrestling fan. And obviously the adrenaline rush of Raw versus Nitro and the NWO and Stone Cold Steve Austin and the emergence of The Rock. That's all awesome. And so part of it was just the characters and the wrestlers were so talented at that point. I think a lot of things were done wrong booking-wise or philosophically that they just simply got away with because the talent was so deep and wrestling was just the hot thing. I think there are a lot of kind of rules of the game, rules of procedure, internal logic, discipline, not watering things down and cashing in on decades of being restrained in big angles, or like you said, Scott, kicking out of finishers, or as we talked about, rapid-fire title changes. I think there's a lot to be learned from the 1970s and 80s that I do think translates to today. And, Scott, I think fans would be surprised at how much they like watching Dolph Ziggler or whomever the current guy is, CM Punk, beat the crap out of a jobber and just have a clear path to doing it. If you're a sports fan, yeah, you like to play your top rival that's you're battling for first place, but it's kind of fun to see if you've got a good, talented first place team, see them beat up on the lowly last place team sometimes too, and just let your stars do what they do and do it uninhibited. And that's part of what I think squash matches are. It gives you a chance, it gives wrestlers a chance and fans a chance to see wrestlers do their signature spots and be themselves without having that give and take where they got to worry about giving the other guy shine or making him look good or not hurting him too much. And I think fans would actually embrace squash matches. It might not be the first week. It might be the first week, but I'm all for sprinkling them back into these shows.
Well, it worked for the Harlem Globetrotters. They wrestled the Washington. They played basketball against the Washington Generals every night for 50 years.
Yes.
So people like. I would love to get my hands on a job guy and do my highlight reel of moves. I used to ask when I was doing that Razor gimmick, I used to tell the agents, just give me the worst guy you got, because I'm not going to have a match with this guy. Let the guys who can go a little bit better, little guys who've been around a little bit longer, let them work with the guys who are going to have matches with them, because I'm not going to. And then I always said the same thing to every job guy that I worked with. I went up to him, I introduced myself, I shook his hand, and I said, have you ever seen me work before? And they'd go, oh, yes, sir. I'd say, well, I pretty much do the same thing, bro. And don't worry, you'll never be lost, because I'm going to be all over you. And then I would just tell him, just tuck your chin on my finish, and I'll see you afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So, I love that. And, yeah, it'd be fun to see. I don't know. We back in the day when we were doing that NWO run, and we were on the TNT, network, and the Saturday show was on TBS, and Eric Bischoff came to everybody and said, well, TBS wants a piece of the NWO too. They want us to be on that show. And it was like, well, heck with that. That means we got to work on Tuesday so that they can film it and show it Saturday. How about, Eric, that we do it before Nitro, because the only thing better than a sold-out arena is an empty arena. So we did them in black and white, and Kevin and I would go out there, do our own commentary, and wrestle guys and beat them up and talk to them during it. And I thought it was pretty funny. I don't know what other people thought, but I really enjoyed it. So I'm down with the squash match. Let's bring back the squash match.
Hashtag bring back.
Hashtag jobbers.
You have you may be starting something, and you have clearly come a long way in the last 6-7 weeks on understanding the Twitter.
Oh, hey, yeah, I'm building myself this high-tech redneck.
Awesome. You wouldn't have even known what that hashtag thing meant. You would have had to have Waltman explain it to you the last time you were on the show.
I know. I still haven't figured it out, and I've never used one, but I see it all the time.
Hashtag jobbers. That's what we should go for. All right, Belfast, Ireland, good to hear from you. Ryan or
yes.
Bar.
Yes, can I have a last question, will you, please?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Yes, well, I just want to say first that, I grew up watching, obviously, the Golden Era, and I remember watching Scott's debut on Nitro. And I believe that the NWO angle originally was the greatest angle ever. But I wanted to get Scott's, opinion on working with the Ultimate Warrior, who was a childhood, one of my childhood heroes. What Scott's views of him when he came into WCW and his return to the WWF?
I never got to wrestle Warrior myself. I was supposed to wrestle him in a Survivor Series one time. It was going to be Ric Flair and myself against, Macho and the Warrior. And they were billing it, and the rumor was, and the rumor may be true, that, right before the pay-per-view, Warrior held Vince up. Like, wire this amount of money to my bank account or I'm not going to wrestle. And Vince had enough of that, and what they did was bring Perfect out of retirement from, announcing. They brought Perfect back, and so it was Macho Perfect against Flair and I. So I never got to wrestle Warrior. I got to be around him a little bit. I just
wanted your thoughts, Scott, because a lot of people think, a lot of people seem to say that he's a bit of an asshole, so I just wanted your thoughts on the guy in general.
Well, here's my thought on him, bro. He was a major star when I was just getting my first big-time break, and he was cool to me. A lot of guys were hating on him. I didn't have a problem with him. In fact, I went up to him and thanked him for blazing the trail and allowing guys to make big money. I never had a problem with the guy. I thought he was great. He's a big star. A lot of people knocked his work and said he wasn't that good a performer, but you know what? You can't make people scream and cheer for you. When he ran to the ring, people jumped to their feet and they were excited, and you can't learn how to make people jump to their feet. Some guys have it, some guys don't. Warrior has it.
Very cool. Appreciate the call. Let's keep rolling through the phone lines. Got a lot of people on hold. Our number is 646-721-9828. I'm Wade Keller, hosting, and my interview today is Scott Hall. Next week, TNA's Mickie James joins me live. And if you haven't yet, check out Wednesday's show from 2 days ago. Just incredible, the guest of Pat McNeil for our Wednesday interview. All right, 270 up next, and then 516 and 312 on deck. 270, please state your name and where you're from.
Hey, this is Mark from Kentucky.
Hey, Mark, thanks for calling. We don't hear from Kentucky much. Good to represent.
Yeah, well, we'll try to represent.
All right.
Hey, Scott, my first memories of you as a kid, I'm in my mid-30s now, so I can remember that initial Razor run at the beginning of the WWF. And actually, my very first memory of you is seeing you punch out Tom Zink at a Clash of Champions one time. It's funny because they're running a Sting injury angle on his leg while the match is going on, but I just remember being so drawn to the way you threw punches, the way you executed moves, and it was just so crisp. And I thought, well, I hope he ends up somewhere near the top of the card later on, because I'd love to see him get his hands on different guys. And then, lo and behold, you show up on WWF a couple of months after that. But my question, it kind of dovetails with the guy from North Ireland and relating to that Survivor Series match and your initial run and your initial kind of main event push. And I thought, did you have any input in Perfect getting that spot for when Warrior got pulled out because of the contract issue, and then were you actually excited having your history, with Perfect? And then second question is just right after that, you went right in with Bret Hart, main evented Royal Rumble, and just what was your frame of mind at that time in terms of, were you proud of the work that was going on, that you were getting to rub shoulders with Flair and Macho Man and then Perfect, and did it just feel comfortable, and then working with Bret right after that?
Well, the way it was laid out to me, at that time Vince did business a little different than he does now, from what I hear from what he's going on now. The way they did business then was Vince laid out angles to me way in advance. The storyline initially was going to be, Macho Warrior against me and Flair, and I was going to retire Randy. He already had the injured leg, and they were going with that storyline, and I was going to cripple Mach, and he was going to go on to be a broadcaster. But in our business, when you have to substitute that changes everything because basically the fans are getting ripped off. You know, they wanted to see Warrior. They don't get to see Warrior. You know, choosing Perfect to come in was a dream come true for me because this guy was a lifelong friend of mine, a mentor to me, taught me everything that I know about wrestling, and the opportunity to work with him was great. So in that situation, you got to feature the substitute. So he perfect flexed Flair and me. You know, but initially Vince wanted me to cripple Savage so that heading into the title match with Brett, I would have been red hot. You know, so, and, you know, that's the story. That's what Vince said, and, you know, that's why, and, you know, now I guess they do things on computers so they can hit a delete button. But in those days, they booked in pencil for a reason so that they could erase it. You know, it's the nature of the beast. Guys get hurt, things happen. And, you know, that's why it always says card subject to change, you know, because things change in a New York minute.
Yeah. Yep. Very good. Mark, any follow-up from you on that?
No, thanks. Thanks, Wade. I've enjoyed being a VIP member, and it's just great to get a chance to talk to Scott, so appreciate the time.
Absolutely. I appreciate you took time to call the show. If you want to go VIP, by the way, PWTorch.com/GoVIP gives you all the information on all the perks of membership. Let's now go to 516 and then on deck, 312 and 219. 516, please state your name and where you're from.
Is Casey, Long Island, New York.
Hey, Casey, good to hear from you. What's up?
Yeah, a couple of things. Scott, great to talk to you finally. Two questions I have. I've been thinking over the last week why I don't know watching TNA. I called in yesterday with the question and just wanted to get your thoughts on it. My first question is, Eric Bischoff gets a lot of credit for the whole NWO angle, but ever since then, 10, 15 years ago, he hasn't really come up with anything. Do you think it's that he's not motivated in TNA, or was he just a one-shot thing? He, took this idea from New Japan, made it work here, and that was it? That was his main idea?
I personally think Eric is a really smart guy, and he's a really good businessman, and I enjoyed being around him. The thing that I noticed most personally and professionally about being around Eric as opposed to Vince is Vince is like the boss, and Eric's like the guy who has the position. I've had many FU discussed with Eric, and then we would go through the curtain and go out to the ring and do business and come back and shake hands. He's a lot younger, too, than Vince. But I think he's really smart. The NWO was his idea. I mean, actually, if you watch the initial interviews at Bash at the Beach, when Hulk came out, and me and Kev were already in the ring, and Hulk wasn't even in the arena yet. He was flying in from California. We didn't even know Hulk was going to do the angle, and the backup was Sting was going to come through the curtain. So we were happy to see Hulk. But if you watch the interview, initially he says, "You could call this the New World Order of Wrestling, brother." And by the end of the interview, he's calling it the New World Organization.
Yes.
So there's a tip for you. There's a tip for you that, it was all Eric's idea.
Yeah.
Now, as far as TNA, I briefly was in TNA for a while when they did the whole bring me and, Big Me and Pac in with Kev. And I want to shout out to Dixie Carter right now because she noticed something wrong with me. This is like 2010, and I had no idea. She noticed that I was really lethargic and I wasn't feeling good. I had congestive heart failure. I ended up having atrial fibrillation and ended up with surgery where they implanted a pacemaker defibrillator. My heart is cool now. My blood pressure is super low. I went from 15 meds a day to 4. But I want to thank Dixie for noticing that and insisting as I go to a doctor and get physical, because I had no idea I was that sick. But at that time, when I was there and Pop came back in and Kev was already there, I remember I knew that Hulk owned a piece of the company, and there was Eric, and I thought, wow, this is going to be great. I've done successful business with these guys. I remember going to Eric and asking him questions, and he's going, well, I don't know. Go ask Russo. And I went, well, that ain't going to happen because I don't like Russo and Russo don't like me, and we're grown men, and that's cool. But I remember thinking, well, who's the boss? Who do you ask questions to? And at that time, Eric didn't have the stroke that he had, and so I think to say that he hasn't come up with good ideas isn't really the way to pigeonhole it, because I think he's really, really smart. And when you're smart, it doesn't fade, man. Being smart stays with you. I just think that he doesn't have the authority that he had before. And I don't know much about what happened with TNA, so I'm not sure. But I think as time goes on, you'll see the influence that Hulk and Eric are having, because now they take their show on the road, and it looks way better on TV than that studio and Universal Studios did. You know, I mean, the product is moving forward since Eric and Hulk have been, you know, in influential positions. So I'm really happy for them and happy for those guys, because it's way more fun to wrestle in front of a hot crowd in a different town every TV than to be in front of the same old people at Universal Studios. And I'm not knocking them people, but they don't get that excited when they see you every couple days, you know?
Right, get jaded. Right.
Very cool.
Okay. I'm just my second question. You every time Scott, you talk about Randy, you talk with them, you know, with such a high praise. Any inside information? I mean, you still have friends in WWE high up. Any reason, any clear-cut reason Randy isn't in the Hall of Fame?
I personally, when someone pointed that out to me, I was kind of surprised, because I thought Randy was already in the Hall of Fame. And then to learn that he's not, and then there's some other cats who are, who you go, what? You know, I don't know. I can't figure that out, but he certainly deserves to be. I mean, if there's a Hall of Fame about wrestling and Randy isn't in it, then, man, who wants to be in it? And you want to talk, this is something I heard about Randy. I never remember to ask him. But, you know, Randy played pro baseball when he was a younger guy. And then he injured his right rotator cuff. And I heard, and being around Randy, I suspect it's true, that he threw a ball against a wall every day, thousands of times with his left hand, until he was good enough with his left hand to make it back to AAA baseball. That's the kind of cat Mach is. He is so super dedicated and intense that he was fun to be around. I mean, I learned so much from Mach. Back to that Survivor Series match when it was Mach and Perk against me and Flair, nobody was allowed to get color at that time. Nobody was allowed to get juice, because the HIV thing was just new and bleeding was out. So we weren't allowed to carry blades and cut ourselves. What Mach did, I had him on the outside and was putting his head into the metal stairs, and Mach just exploded his head into the stairs and got color the hard way. Because that's just the kind of guy he is. I thought we needed it, brother. I thought we needed it. So, I mean, I will always, you know, have mad love for Mach for what he did for me coming in the door. I mean, I learned how to be a big money ball player. As Dusty Rhodes would say, a big money ball player.
Yes,
very cool, Casey.
It's us as outsiders, we hear all rumors. So you never heard anything backstage that this was the reason why he's not in?
No, bro. Like I said, I thought he was already in. I mean, if Mach isn't in the Hall of Fame, who wants to be in it? Not me.
Right. All right. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Casey. All right. Let's give out the phone number, 646-721-9828. You're listening to the PWTorch Livecast at PWTorchLivecast.com. You can find us here 5 days a week. Mondays we're on in the hour before Raw. Torch senior columnist Bruce Mitchell is joined by Torch audio contributor Travis Bryant on Mondays. Tuesdays, I host with Jason Powell of the website ProWrestling.net and review Raw and talk about other current events in wrestling. Wednesdays, Pat McNeil hosts and usually has an interview or a all-star panel discussion about current events. This Wednesday, his guest was just incredible. And Thursdays, James Caldwell, often with Greg Parks and Sean Radican, talk about the news of the week in wrestling. And Fridays is Interview Friday, and I host with Scott Hall. Last week, the Blue Meanie was our guest to talk about the new ECW documentary, Barbed Wire City. I recommend that documentary. You can get info at barbedwirecity.com. And the week before that, Nikita Koloff was our guest for a full 2 hours discussing his career and his new reality show on Lifetime Network. Scott, have you seen Preacher's Daughters on Lifetime?
No, I haven't. I remember meeting Nikita when I first broke in, and I was in Charlotte territory, and he was there and he was getting a big break. You know, he's a Minneapolis guy. He's a Robbinsdale, Minnesota guy. And we used to train together. You know, we used to train at the gym together. And then they started giving him the big Russian bush gimmick. And he came to me. He was already starting to do the Russian accent. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
He was like, no, we cannot train together. And I was thinking, what? You know, his name is Scott Simpson.
I know.
But, you know, I mean, I don't know. Personally, bro, wrestling's what I do. It's not who I am. I mean, I know for whatever reasons he chose to change his name legally to Nikita Koloff and speak with that Russian accent like all the time.
Yeah. And
God bless him for being so dedicated to his craft. And, you know, I know now that he's like an evangelist, and I hear he's really good. I haven't had the chance to see the show. If I ever come across it, I'll certainly check it out. I think Nikita's a super guy. He had a great career. I was there some of those times, like, you know, when Ivan and Nikita would wrestle the Warriors, they do huge money, you know, and I was like second match, first match. So I was glad to be there, you know. But, I mean, he's a great guy and had a great career, and I wish him nothing but success.
Well, people can hear the first hour free at PWTorchLivecast.com. Just go in the archives back 2 weeks to mid-April, and VIP members get to hear the whole 2 hours with Nikita. Lots of good stuff. At the end of the interview in the VIP portion, Scott, I asked him, since he purported to be from Russia and spoke a little bit of Russian, some of it fake, on television, if he ever had any Russian-speaking fans come up to him in public, and how did he react to that? Because he didn't speak Russian. And he had a great answer to it. He just said that he'd say in his Russian accent, he'd look irritated, and he'd look at them and go, "We're in America now. We speak English." And he goes, that was pretty much the end of it anytime somebody came to him speaking Russian. But he was a good guest and told some good stories. Let's jump back to the phone lines and go to 312.
Like Baron von Raschke, right? That is all the people need to know.
Exactly. Yeah. He was. You're right though. He was good with that gimmick. Very good with that gimmick. And you know, he was not to get too far off a tangent, but he was like the only credible guy at that point who fans thought could take on Hawk and Animal in the ring. And, you know, Ivan was fine. You know, he had some credibility. But Nikita against the Road Warriors was one of the real dream matches of the mid-'80s.
Well, and one of the coolest things that happened also to me in that era was, you know, when Magnum TA got in that, you know, horrifying car crash, you know, wrecked his porch and ended up having a severe injury, you know, and he was like the top babyface. I mean, Dusty Rhodes was the booker. Dusty had took me to Charlotte with him when he took the job as booker up there from Florida. And it was, you know, I mean, the company was built around Magnum TA, and I was there at the beginning. Really, the company was built around Barry Windham. And I was with Barry in the parking lot one time when he got a paycheck from the office. He opened it in front of me and wasn't happy with the payoff. And this is the shoot story. And Barry went, well, heck with this. Went in and gave his notice, and he went on to the WWE. So now they're desperate for a babyface. So they plucked Magnum out of Louisiana, and now they got to mega push this guy because everything was built around Barry to that point. Mm-hmm. So Magnum gets a huge push, and he handled it and delivered the goods, was a major box office star, but that's what happened. Now the company's built around Magnum. He gets injured in that tragic car crash. So Dusty, out of nowhere, I mean, we have the American Dream and we got the Russian Nightmare. Dusty, they got a big show coming up in Charlotte, and Dusty turns Nikita babyface out of nowhere. He just brings them in. They do an interview in the office, the Superpowers Summit. Yep. It got over huge because Nikita and Magnum had many great matches. So it made sense, and you got to give credit to Dusty for being so darn smart. Yes. Because Dusty, the Superpowers, drew huge money against the Warriors too. Yep. So that's my memories of Nikita. You know, he was in the right place at the right time, and he did his part. Very cool. Yeah. He was. That was a good era. The best of 7 title series for the U.S. title. Nikita Flair. It was a fun interview. It's worth definitely. I recommend listening to it. Bruce Mitchell joined me for that one, and
It was a good matchup with me being from Minnesota, where Nikita's from originally, and then Bruce, who saw Nikita's career up close from the front row during those peak years in the late 80s. So good interview we're seeking out. All right, let's go back to phone lines. 312, you're next, and then on deck, 219-732-407. 312, thanks for calling. Please state your name and where you're from.
312.
Hey, yo.
Florida.
Hey, yo, Keller.
Florida. What's up?
Hey, when are you going to have the fifth go on the show?
312, do you have a question for Scott Hall in a normal voice, please?
Hey, Scott, when are you and Puck going to take over the livecast? You and the rest of you.
All right, I just don't have, I don't know what's going on there. Let's go to 219.
I don't know. Hey, let me throw this out there. I asked Big Kev to join me, and he said, because me and Kev talked for 4 hours the other night on the phone. I couldn't sleep, so we just laughed and talked all night.
Yeah.
Kev wants the Outsiders to go on tour doing like the Q&A, photo op, and a signing. So we're probably going to organize a world tour, be big, sexy, and super sexy, the Sex Express, get back together. So we're accepting, bookings. It'll be in a few months when I'm really in peak shape. But Kev said to tell you thanks for not returning his calls, and that's why he didn't want to be on your show with me today. So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Wade. We could have blew up your show. We could have blown it up and gave you some sweet-ass credibility. But you got to call the grouch back when he calls you.
I don't think either of us have a perfect track record in that regard, but I'll give him a call back because you're right. I do owe him a phone. He did. I remember he called me about the that he getting screwed over on that indie on the indie deal that he had going, and I didn't get back to him. So he's right. I'm a call. We'll see if he's a forgiving type.
He's not. He told me he's going to kick your ass, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, then I want him to get really rich in the meantime because I'll just stick lawyers on him.
Yeah. Oh, he's so scared of that. That'll work.
He's running.
You must not have seen him chase that kid down on MTV at spring break. Shove some kid's head in the sand to throw a skittle at him.
All right. Well, hopefully we can mend that sense. It would be awesome. I mean, it'd be awesome to have all three of you guys on, including Pac. We wanted to. Back in the mid 2000s, it wasn't a perfect time in some of your lives for it, but we wanted to do one of the Ultimate Insiders, fly out to LA like I did with the Hardy Boys and with Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara, and do a DVD with all three of you together. That would have been great. But I think the idea of you guys doing something together is a good idea. I think there'd be a lot of interest in you two, and maybe Sean joining you too. I don't want to book it, stick my nose in the business, but I think all three of you would be great together. All right.
Well, you're a keen observer of the obvious way.
Yeah, you told me that last time too. I'm sure.
And it still rings true, brother.
Thank you. All right, let's go to 219 and then on deck 732 and 407. I'm gonna move to some emails too. So if you emailed us, please be patient. Hold tight. All right, 219. Thanks for holding. Please state your name and where you're from.
Hi, this is Mike from Indiana.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for calling. What have you got for us?
Thank you. How you doing, guys?
Great.
Great, brother.
All right. Hey, a question, Scott. I was wondering, what was the reasoning behind your decision to leave the WWF in '96? Was it a case where you thought you hit the glass ceiling and there was just nowhere else to go, or was it purely a financial decision? What was your reasoning behind it?
Well, I went to Vince. I cornered Vince at the TV one time and said, "Hey, boss, can I talk to you?" "Well, sure, bad guy." And I said, "Well, listen, I'm wondering, do I need to improve my ring work?" "No, absolutely not. I'm very happy with that." "Well, is it my mic skills?" "Oh, no, you're one of the best talkers we've got." I said, "I'm just kind of curious what I have to do to make big money like the guys who preceded me." And he just kind of made a face, and next thing you know, I was summoned to Connecticut for a meeting with Vince. And, he said, "Well, when you asked me that, it raised a red flag." And I said, "Yeah, Vince, I don't need a belt. I don't need any of that. I know it's a work, and it's a business, and I'm just wondering what I can do. Am I going to retire working for you, or what should I do?" And I said, I was more concerned about days off than I was the money, because what good is the money when you never get to spend it? We were always on the road at that time, and I don't want to toot my own horn, but toot. Ever since I left there, guys get guaranteed money, and they work a way reduced schedule, and I don't know what happened, but, gee, I left and it happened. I'm not taking the credit, but I'm taking the credit. I mean, I asked for more money. He said no. I said, Vince, what about, merchandise? Can I have a little more of that merchandise? The Hall family would really notice. I said, would the McMahon family even really notice? And he said, well, I give you the same I give Sean and Big D and Taker, and no. That's how all those guys get paid now, is they get more of the merchandise.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, and you got to remember, it was a private company then. It was family owned. So if you made more, Vince made less. It came out of his pocket, was how he looked at it. And so I remember saying, well, what about Japan? Can I work in Japan? Can I go to Japan, say 10, 12 weeks a year? I still want to work for you. Let me go there and get their money. Just like when I pitched the merchandise to him, I said, Vince, if somebody buys Razor stuff, that's their money. Can I have some of their money? And he went, no. And I said, what about Japan? Can I go to Japan? No. Well, heck, okay, shoot, And Pac had been talking to an agent, Barry Bloom, and he told me what they offered him, and I said, heck, find out if they want me. And they did, and that's when I gave a lot of people, especially you, Jim Cornette, you goof, you don't know the details, because I heard he buries me on DVDs and stuff about lying to Vince. The facts are, I gave Vince 90 days written notice. I sent him a telegram, and I had my lawyer fax him a letter all 3 times, 90 days in advance, that I did not want my contract to roll over. It didn't mean I had to leave, but it meant let's talk.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. I would have rather stayed there. And Kevin and I were talking about the other day, like, what would have happened if we would have just stayed? Because if you've ever seen that famous picture of the back of the bus in Europe, when all the top guys are sitting around the table, they're partying on. It was me and Kev's last European tour, and everybody was there. Taker, Austin, me, Shawn Michaels, kids, the Godwins. It was like a lot of major players sitting there, and we all went on to separate companies, and the business blew up. But Vince had everybody working for him at that time. But I asked Kev, what do you think if we'd have stayed? What would have happened? He went, well, who knows? We can't look back, but maybe we needed to go so that I think the product got better. It forced WWE to get better. WCW got better because it blew up, and more people watched wrestling in that era than ever before and ever since. So that's why I left, bro. I'm not a selfish guy. I don't have to have the most. I just want a lot. And he said no, and it hurt my feelings, and I said, well, I'm going to take my ball and go home.
Yeah. Very good. Mike, any follow-up for us?
No. Scott actually covered my next question, how he would have thought the wrestling business would have changed if he would have stayed. Because I know you covered that. You got that question, I believe, a week or so ago.
Yep.
One of your shows.
That on the VIP Color Hotline, yeah.
Right. But, yeah, that's pretty much all I have. Big fan of yours, Scott. Thanks a lot for taking my call. Have a good day.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks a lot, bro. Thank you.
All right, our phone number is 646-721-9828. Your last minutes here to talk to Scott Hall before we go to email questions. 732, you are up next, and 979 on deck. 732, please state your name and where you're from.
Hi, I'm Chris from New Jersey, Wade and Scott. Hello, I'm a first-time caller.
Thanks for calling.
Hey, bud.
Awesome. Hey, Scott, I'm 29. I watched you grow up. I was growing up and I watched you in WWE as Razor Ramon. I have a question. I actually have two, but listen, I have a question. Were you friends with Sean Waltman when he did the angle with 1-2-3 Kid when he beat you at the one of the first Monday Night Raws? That was a big part of the Monday Night Raw history, and I'd just like to get your opinion on that.
Scott, you did talk about that in pretty good detail on the last show, so I'll direct our caller, too, if he wants to hear your first. You're addressing it in even more detail, why the angle worked and what you liked about it. But feel free to talk about your relationship with Sean.
Thanks, Wade.
Well, okay. As I said that, Scott, I said, I know he's going to call me for my choice words. Or you're going to.
Well, wow. What are you, the wrestling police?
Exactly.
Or the friendship police. Anyway, bro, back to your answer. Right. Don't let Wade annoy you. That's what he does. I had never met Sean before that night. Although Vince had laid, like I was talking about before, with the angle with, what they were going to do with me with Warrior and lead in the match with Brett, at that time I was a heel. Now years have gone by. Vince wants to turn me babyface, and he wants to do it a creative way. So he tells me he's going to have this kid beat me. Then 6 weeks later, during the sweeps, he's going to have the kid steal my money and have all the other heels make fun of me so that I never have to change my character. I stay the same, except I just have different opponents. And he said, this kid's going to beat you 6 weeks later. We're going to have the rematch. He's going to steal the money. And then SummerSlam, you beat DiBiase with your fetch, which is exactly what happened. But to answer your question, I had never met Pac until that night. But he was so fun to be around. He's such a great guy. I have known him for over 20 years now, and I have never run into him or even talked to him on the phone when I just I can't stop but smile. He just makes me smile. He's one of the best friends I've ever had and continues to be, and there couldn't have been a better guy to put over. And but he had to know I didn't know him then, but from that night, he's been a part of my life from that night on, and we're kind of linked in the wrestling art history. And he's so fun to hang out with, and that angle was one of the best things that ever happened to my career. Mm-hmm. It put him on the map, but it really launched my career too, and I can't thank him enough for being the right guy.
And we talked about jobber matches earlier, Scott, too, and that angle worked because people thought this kid, he was called Kamikaze Kid, and I can't remember all the other names. But
Lightning Kid.
Yeah.
See, that's what Vince did before. When he laid the angle out, he said, and to make sure, they had Pac do jobs on Raw. He got squashed by Mr. Hughes. Yeah. He got squashed by, Yoko, maybe. I mean, they had him get squashed so that the audience in the Manhattan Center knew that this dude's a jobber. So that when he beat me, they would go crazy. They would think it was a fluke. It was an accident. I mean, like I said last time, I came back into the locker room, and Papa Shango, who was Kama, who was the good father and the godfather, and is a great guy, Charles White, lives out in Vegas. He came up to me and said, "Man, did you fail a drug test?" I mean, people thought it was real. Even the boys thought it was real. It worked so well.
Chris, by the way, Sean was with us the last time Scott was on about 6 weeks ago. So Scott talked about that angle in even more detail, and Sean was with us. So you can. I'm just trying to slip in a plug, Scott, for the other show to get people to listen to the other one too.
No, absolutely. We take a
cool.
Here the other show. My second question is, from what I understand, that Vince McMahon, he wasn't offering guaranteed contracts. So basically, my second question is, was Shawn Michaels or Triple H, at that point, was there ever a possibility of them jumping to WCW, during the NWO run?
Well, the contracts weren't guaranteed, but they were all one-year deals at that time. So the way it worked with me and Kev was Kev's contract was up the next week, the same as mine was. We didn't have anything to do with that. That's just the way it happened. So it worked out great for us. And I didn't even know when my contract was up. I had to call the office and sweet talk a secretary to even tell me so that I knew when to give my notice. And she swore me to secrecy that I wouldn't reveal who she was. Because I didn't even know. I wouldn't have known when to give my 90-day notice. I just didn't want to stay there. To me, a lot of people have said, well, would it have worked with Sting being the third man? And I think, no, it had to be Hulk. But wow, for the fourth guy, it was Giant, who's now built his big show, and he's one in a million. But wow, to have Shawn or Triple H, that would have been huge. That would have been huge. We needed Hulk because he's Hulk, and he had in his contract creative control, which gave us creative control, and we did whatever we wanted. But man, when you start talking about adding guys to the NWO to make it even hotter, guys like Shawn Michaels and Triple H would certainly be at the top of my wish list.
Chris, appreciate the call.
Thank you very much. And Scott, I'm very happy to hear that you're doing so well. Thank you very much, guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks for calling.
Someone in the chat room said that May 17th is the 20th anniversary of you beating Kid on Raw, so that's pretty cool.
Kid beating me?
Yeah, yep. Of the match we're talking about. So anyway, I mean, I was doing a radio show back then on KFAN, and VIP members get to hear that show in late May. We'll put that up, and I'm sure we had a lot to say back at the time in real time about Sean, who was a guest on my show on KFAN back at that time a few times. I think his first ever radio appearance, which is pretty hilarious, was part of the Pro Wrestling Focus series that we've run every week on the VIP website. And also we'll have the back issue of the Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter posted on that match later in the month, too, for VIP members. So cool stuff. It's always fun to relive those memories, and the 20th anniversary coming up. So thanks to the chat room for letting us know that. All right.
Yeah, I talked to Pac, Wade. I talked to Pac, too, and he said, I told him, well, Kev doesn't want to do it. He said, well, you got enough of me. He said, you got enough of me last time. And he was swinging by the Cowhead show, there in Tampa, and then going on to see Billy Corgan and the Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh, cool.
So he didn't want to be part of it either. Nobody likes you, Wade. Nobody likes you.
Thanks. The day started all right, except for the snow here in Minnesota, and now, I'm starting to feel like Anthony from D.C., our caller earlier, who was very sad about you losing.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, let's take 979.
Blasted a fan. Wow. Abuse of power.
I'll take one more call. 979. You've been on hold a long time, and I do want to get to some emails. Scott, you still got some time to hang with us and answer some email questions?
Yeah, bro, I got time. I'm going out to dinner with Jake later, but I'm cool for now.
Excellent. All right, 979. Thanks for your patience holding. Please state your name and where you're from.
Hey, my name's Daniel from Texas, from Houston, Texas. Hello?
All right, go Rockets. Go ahead, Daniel.
Hey, how's it going, Scott? I just want to congratulate you on becoming sober and getting everything back together and all that good stuff.
Well, thank you.
Hello. Hey, I was just wondering, I've kind of followed you. I've been a wrestling fan for a long time, and I've followed you probably since the Razor days, and everybody's asking all these older questions, about earlier in your career and through the NWO stuff. And I'm just, I've been kind of wondering actually about the more recent, I followed you even through the JWO stuff and all these little independent shows that you can kind of catch on YouTube. And I'm just wondering about, what was kind of going through your mind during those times, and I don't know how are you feeling or what was going on then. It just seemed like some of that stuff was a little bit beneath you for your level of I don't know where you were at one time. Just curious about that. See your
I haven't
thoughts on
done
the
many
JWO days and all that.
Yeah, I haven't done many indie shows at all, really, my whole career. And I actually went down to Puerto Rico to work for Carlos Colon's company because he gave me a break, back in the day when I couldn't get work in the U.S. I worked in Japan and Europe and Puerto Rico. So Carlos was really good to me, and I learned a lot down there. So they invited me to come into their anniversario show, like their once-a-year big show, like their WrestleMania. I went down there and worked with his son, Carlito. And, we had a good match. It was a good house. I had a good time. I was in shape. I looked good. I was still out of my mind, but, I looked okay. And I came back from the ring. We had a good match. People enjoyed it. And some guy standing there handed me his cell phone, and it was this guy calling from, JCW, Juggalo Championship Wrestling. And so the guy handed me the phone, and they wanted to know if I wanted to come in. I said, well, thanks, but no thanks, bye. The phone rang again. The guy asked me, well, would you come in? I said, look, man, I don't really make indie shows. Thanks a lot, but no thanks. And I'm really expensive. So I quoted my price. The guy said, no problem. And I said, well, not that I don't trust you, but I don't trust you. And I want it in cash before I even put my gear on. I said, no problem. So I went there, and it was actually the gathering of the Juggalos, which I had no idea what it was. I didn't know anything about ICP at that time. And so they flew me into Evansville, Indiana. And no offense to the people in Evansville, but it's kind of a sleepy, nothing happening town. I mean, you can't even fly in there on a big jet. You got to go on a little plane. We land there. We check in the hotel. They drive us to the show, which is in Illinois, in Hog Rock, Illinois, about 3 hours in a van with the rest of the boys. the show didn't start till midnight. So we're there, it's dark, we drive for hours, and then there's nothing on the side of the road but cornfields. And then we pull up to this giant campground, and lights everywhere. There's a carnival midway with roller coasters and Ferris wheel and all the sideshow stuff. There's 50,000 people camping out at this thing. I've never seen such a deal. So we did the wrestling show. It was a blast. I wrestled their champ. I had a great time. They treated me good, and I've done business with them for years since then. I was in their little movie, the remake of Big Money Hustlers. It's the prequel called Big Money Rustlers, which is set in an old western town that we filmed out in Cali, in Calabasas, California. I had a great time. They treated me good. Those guys are all first class. I mean, it's a pleasure for me to be around young, smart businessmen. You know, I love being around guys who are smart, and they are, and it was a blast. They treated me good. I've only done a couple other little indie shows here and there. I bet I've done less than 20 in my whole career. Sometimes it's fun to get out there. I've been to some little small shows in Florida just because I know the guys who are running them, and I pop in there just because it was kind of keeping me out of trouble at that point, man. I was drinking so out of control that I needed something to do, and so I would go there sometimes. But I don't know. I think that I'm happy that the indie scene is out there and alive because there's a lot of young talent that needs a place to work. You know, Vince has mostly killed off the independent scene because, I mean, there's no place to learn to wrestle. When I broke in, there was other territories, and you could go places and make a living. You could be on TV, do interviews, do gimmick matches, and polish your skills. Now there's no place to learn. So I'm thankful that there's independent promoters out there to give guys a chance. I have a son who's 21 who's breaking in. He's going to be breaking in on the independent scene. Then we're going to go international. You know, we're looking at Europe. And, you know, and like Conan is part of AAA there in Mexico, so there's a thriving company. But there's not many alternatives. So, I mean, God bless those indie promoters. And, yeah, I stayed away from a lot of that because of, you know, that feel of like, wow, you know, I've already been to the mountaintop. Why would I go back to the minor league? But, you know, I'm glad it's there. I mean, I just talked to Kev the other day for hours, and Kev makes the indie scene. He told me he worked 19 weekends in a row, you know, because he's out there doing it. And Kev goes out there and does jobs for young guys because he thinks it's the right thing to do. And, you know, and Pac makes the indie scene. So, you know, there's guys out there representing and helping out. And I just, you know, I'm a wrestler, so the more wrestling there is available, you know, the better it is for wrestlers. I hope that answered your question.
Very good. Dano from Houston, thanks for calling. Any follow-up?
No, I appreciate it. That answers my question. I've seen some videos on YouTube, and there's like, you know, 20 people out in the crowd, and I'm thinking, what the hell? But I mean,
well, some of those really brutal ones were my friend's company in Florida, and I went there because I would go down to his dojo and help him work out with the young guys and hang out. And yeah, the Florida wrestling scene is really dead. There's nothing going on there because there's so many more entertainment options in Florida than going to some small-time wrestling show. Well, one thing I did learn is that, man, there's no more intoxicating substance for me than the feedback from a live audience. Mm-hmm. And I have learned it doesn't have to be 20,000 or sometimes 50,000 at a dome somewhere. It can be 10 people. And if they're popping and they come to have fun, I still get a buzz. You know, it's a little bit diluted, like somebody's been cutting it, but I still get a buzz. And so, you know, I don't know, bro. It's fun. You know, there'd be 21 people. If you'd buy a ticket and you'd go, there'd be 21 people in the crowd. Support your local wrestlers. Support your local
wrestlers. Will do, man. Will do.
All right, bro.
Hey, I need to make a stop by Houston on your tour.
Oh, yeah, the Outsider World Tour.
Get some people together and come check y'all out.
Yeah, man, I want to say hi to my heart surgeon down there anyway. So we'll definitely head to Houston.
Good deal, man. It was good talking to you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Very good. We're down a couple minutes on the livecast feed. We'll answer some of the email questions in the VIP after show at the end here. But I do want to squeeze one in here on our livecast portion of the program. Will from Dublin says, can you please ask Scott if he feels his best days were as Razor Ramon in the WWF or with the NWO and WCW? Love the last interview and looking forward to this one.
Well, I don't know, because Razor was my creation, and it was a lot of fun, and it was well produced by the WWE. You're not going to ever outproduce the WWE. They're star makers. It's the place to be. That's the big leagues, and I think every wrestler worldwide aspires to wrestle in the WWE, and they should. It's definitely the place to be. No disrespect to TNA, but those guys know it too. Most of their major stars are former WWE guys anyway. I just think that, like I mentioned earlier, would I have stayed and done the Razor thing? Yeah, if I'd have been compensated the way that I wanted to be. But I'm trying now not to learn to focus on the past and what if.
Yeah.
I chose to jump. The NWO thing was Eric Bischoff's idea. It exploded. It was great. It was good times. And I think the whole business thrived because competition is good. It was funny when when I thought about the question when I first heard it, I thought, well, gee, man, I was always Scott Hall.
Yeah.
The paychecks always said Scott Hall. My mom didn't name me Razor. My name is Scott, and it was always Scott Hall. When I was Razor, it really freed me up because I had a lot of, and still do have some emotional problems and problems with, self-worth and stuff. So I was really comfortable slipping into a character where I could be somebody else. Like Scott Hall was going through a divorce at that time. Things were horrible. My personal life was falling apart. But when I hit that curtain for that 20, 25 minutes that I'm out there, sometimes longer, I got to be Razor. And Razor's life was better than yours. So I really embraced that. And having developed that as a coping skill, even no matter what they billed me at, I still was the bad guy. I got to be that wrestler, whether it was Razor Ramon or whether it was Scott Hall. Wow, what was that? Something just a 20 seconds?
We only
hear that?
Yeah, we only hear that. The listeners don't. It's just a time cue that the show's coming. Our live feed's coming to an end on the show. So.
Wow, scared me, man. It's
I know.
Broad thing, too. Just when I need some animated broadcast. But anyway, bro, I was always Scott Hall, inside, and now I'm trying to get to know that guy a little bit better and on a more mature level. But I can't answer that, man. I dug being Razor. Hi, baby. I dug being Razor. I dug the whole NWO run, and now I look forward to the next chapter, and hopefully it's managing at Cody_Hall1. That's my boy, Cody Hall. He's got unlimited potential, and I really look forward to, being in his corner. And a dream come true for me would be to wear the headphones and be Bobby Heenan and do color commentary. And then when your guy comes out, you leave the headphones, you go to the ring with him. That'd be a dream come true for me. But that's way down the road. And right now, I'm just focusing on helping Cody launch his career and watching my daughter Cassidy grow up and be a beautiful young lady she is. It's all good, man.
Two good reasons to get up in the morning.
It's all good.
Yeah. People can follow you at Scott Hall NWO on Twitter, and you are active on Twitter now, so everyone should follow him. You can follow.
Man.
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
It's good for my brain. And I'm learning how to spell again, and it's like I'm retraining my brain, man. And I dug words anyway. I used to be the editor of the high school paper when I was in Munich. Yeah, I always loved journalism. You have to be concise and to the point, and so I'm digging it. I'm really digging it.
That's awesome. So at Scott Hall NWO, you can follow me on Twitter at the Wade Keller, TheWadeKeller. Scott Hall, thanks for joining us here on the live portion of the show. I want to talk to you about WrestleMania. So we use that as the teaser, as the hook, along with, by the way, Scott, VIP members, because we record this on two layers. One is the live feed, and people don't hear the British lady give us the time cues. But VIP members actually do get to hear her give time cues. So if you want to know...
lucky them.
Yeah, exactly.
Could you get some kind of French broad? Can't you get some French chick? That'd be great.
I'm
having flashbacks from Montreal.
I'll email Blog Talk Radio and ask them to give us a choice of the voice that we hear for the countdown.
Yeah, a little Japanese would be nice.
But you can hear was it 4.5 hours, Scott, last time with you and Sean Waltman? Close to it. All 4.5 hours from about 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, we were hanging with you till you just got so darn boring you couldn't stand.
So a lot of cool things if you go VIP, a lot of audio plus the newsletter. I've done it for 25 plus years. Every week you get access to that online in a PDF format or all text format. Lots of coverage of the entire week of pro wrestling, exclusive columns, cover stories, transcripts of some of these interviews, and much more pay-per-view roundtables. Good stuff in that newsletter every week. Ad-free access to the website, VIP access to all new content on our phone apps on iPhone and Android. If you don't have our apps, download them. Just do a search for PWTorch in your smartphone, whatever smartphone you have. We're almost for sure in the App Store, and it is free. And visit us at PWTorch.com. Even if you don't become a member, we welcome you to be a daily visitor and get all the new content, including the new Ask PWTorch feature. Well, it's sort of new. We brought it back from when we first launched the website. Today's subjects, and I want to talk to you about this, Scott, too, is Triple H a good choice to replace Vince McMahon in terms of taking up a lot of the responsibilities Vince has had over these past 25, 30 years? Also, we address is WWE more open now to signing some top indie talent? Sean Radican tackles that answer. Was Undertaker really injured at WrestleMania 28? And why did WWF not do a Hogan Ultimate Warrior rematch? All those questions answered today at PWTorch.com exclusively on the website. Scott, thanks for putting up with my plugs while I plug some stuff, and we'll now move to the VIP After Show.
Did you say 25 years you've been doing this, man?
Yeah, 1987.
You should you'll start picking it up anytime.
Thanks.